Obama says White House response to coronavirus has been absolute chaotic disaster. This article by Jeff Zenley at CNN says, quote, former President Barack Obama delivered a blistering critique of the Trump administration's response to the coronavirus crisis, describing it as an absolute chaotic disaster during a private call Friday night with people who worked for him in the White House and across his administration. The searing comments, confirmed to CNN by 3 former Obama administration officials on the call, offered the starkest assessment yet from the former president about how President Donald Trump and his team have handled the deadly pandemic and why he believes Democrats must rally behind the former Vice President Joe Biden to defeat Trump in November. In a 30-minute conversation with members of the Obama Alumni Association, the former president said the response to the coronavirus outbreak served as a critical reminder for why strong government leadership is needed during a global crisis. The call was intended to encourage former Obama staffers to become more engaged in Biden's presidential campaign. Obama said, quote, the election that's coming up on every level is so important because what we're going to be battling is not just a particular individual or political party. What we're fighting against in these long-term trends in which being selfish, being tribal, being divided, and seeing others as an enemy that has become a stronger impulse in American life. The article says that the comments were first reported by Yahoo News, which obtained an audio recording of the call. A spokesperson for Obama declined to comment or elaborate on the former president's remarks. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany on Saturday dismissed the criticism from Obama, saying in a statement to CNN, quote, President Trump's coronavirus response has been unprecedented and saved American lives. And as far as the Obama comments go, keep in mind that we're gearing up for an election coming up in November. He's on Joe Biden's side, and he's using his platform and his voice to really try to make Trump look bad. The only thing, though, is that Obama's criticisms, I'm not sure that they're totally founded in fact. Granted, I'm sure there's a lot that we don't know and information that maybe he has access to behind the scenes. But if you look at the Trump administration's response at face value, they actually aren't doing too bad. So how did the Trump administration actually respond to the coronavirus? I found a really cohesive timeline. It's on the Donald J. Trump website. I couldn't find any mainstream sources that were unbiased and that presented this information outside of the narrative of Trump squandering his response. And I don't want to, it's a really thorough play-by-play of all the moves that the Trump administration made, the people they were talking to, the kind of bills that they got pushed through Congress, and I took some notes for you. Starting back in January 31st, the Trump administration declared the coronavirus a public health emergency, and they announced Chinese travel restrictions. And if you remember when they did this back in January, the Trump administration was being criticized, notably by Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden, as being xenophobic and racist. He also suspended entry into the United States for foreign nationals who pose a risk of transmitting the coronavirus. Health officials briefed lawmakers on the government's coronavirus response efforts. The CDC began shipping CDC development test kits for the 2019 novel coronavirus to U.S. and international labs. President Trump told reporters that CDC is working with China on the coronavirus. Also remember that when Trump officials were trying to go to Wuhan to study firsthand what was going on, Chinese officials barred any entry. The Department of Health and Human Services expanded a partnership with Janssen Research and Development to, quote, expedite the development of a coronavirus vaccine. Now going into March, the Trump administration announced the purchase of approximately 500 million N95 respirators over the next 18 months to respond to the outbreak of the novel coronavirus. President Trump held a phone call with over 24 grocery store executives. HHS announced it is projected to have 1.9 million COVID-19 tests available in 2,000 labs this week. Google announced a partnership with the Trump administration to develop a website dedicated to coronavirus education. All 50 states were contacted through FEMA to coordinate federally supported state-led efforts to end coronavirus. Continuing in March, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin met with lawmakers to discuss stimulus measures to relieve the economic burden of coronavirus on certain industries, business, and American workers, which also those payments started going through in mid-April. Vice President Pence confirmed FEMA sent New York 2,000 ventilators, announced individuals who have recently been in New York should self-quarantine. Going into April now, President Trump discussed the production of ventilators with GM CEO Mary Barra. Rear Admiral Polishek announced FEMA Supply Chain Stabilization Task Force has delivered 27.1 million surgical masks, 19.5 million N95 respirator masks, 22.4 million surgical gloves, 5.2 million face shields, and over 7,600 ventilators. And I'll end it there. I'm going to leave a link to this timeline in the description so you can take a look at it. If you are just paying attention to the mainstream sources, they're really painting Donald Trump's response to the coronavirus as if it's unorganized, as if things aren't happening fast enough. And I think you have to consider how long these things take to orchestrate. You can't just invent supplies, you have to talk to people and you have to get everything organized so things can be executed. And I think to hold the president to these crazy high standards of getting things organized within a matter of a couple weeks, I don't know. You come to your own conclusions. Like I said, check out the full list on donaldjtrump.com. So my key takeaways from this timeline are as follows. The Trump administration worked with the private and public sector to secure medical supplies and the production of more medical supplies. Trump met with key members of a lot of industries to keep everybody on track, to talk with experts on what the proper and appropriate plans of action are for continuing business and for the reopening of businesses later on. And I think the biggest thing also is the stimulus bill that Trump got through. And I know that Trump didn't get it through by himself, but he was the president and he's in a leadership position. So if you're going to say that Trump is responsible for everything bad that's happening, can we at least give him some credit when something good happens too? And I'll end it with that today. If you like the content, like and subscribe. Leave a comment. I want to hear your thoughts on this too. Until next time.